Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we simulated the entire season, and it was another great year for this team despite all of our off-season losses. We finished with a 57-20-5 record, and we were first place in every single category: goals for, goals against, power play percentage, and penalty kill percentage, and also shorthanded goals too. And it was just a crazy season. Like, I wasn't expecting us to do necessarily this good because we did lose a lot of players in the offseason, but the captain led the way with 128 points this year, which is a career high. Also 73 goals, which is absolutely insane for a 37-year-old. So Stelwitz definitely did a lot of good stuff. We also had Kolar's over 100 points, which was the best year of his career. Ristolainen continues to drop off, which is rather concerning because that means that he could retire at the end of the season. He was still well over point per game, but he did miss 4 games due to injury. You also had like Cashman on 75 points, Dunham had 66, so a big year for a lot of players on this team despite, like I said, losing a lot of players in the offseason and also getting kind of older as a team. So very excited to see what this team's able to do in the postseason. I hope that we could have a good run again this year. If not, it's not necessarily the end of the world, but it would be potentially the end of the career for a lot of guys. There is a chance that we could lose Stelwitz, Ristolainen, and also Narena this offseason. So we got to hope that we can go on a good long run in this postseason so that way their careers go on a little bit longer. But in general, everything was fantastic. Even Gianta was really good. He also is likely going to win another Vezina trophy this season, which is pretty impressive. I wasn't expecting to win another, but he had a .917 save percentage this season, as you can see, at 41 wins. So I definitely think there's a chance that he could win it again, and that would be the third of his career, which is also pretty insane. So just in general, we've been winning a lot of awards, individual hardware, which is nice. So even though we only have the one Stanley Cup, I've been pretty impressed with the team for the most part of things. So yeah, hopefully we could continue to build off that in this postseason. We are going to be taking on the Minnesota Wild in the first round of playoffs, who had a 45-30-7 record during the regular season. So it wasn't necessarily the cheesiest record, but I do still feel like they could be a bit of a cheese team. And I will show you guys what their lineup is looking like again, just in case you forgot. And then we'll get into your comments and all that. But Minnesota, we've played them a couple times in the postseason before. They are definitely kind of one of these teams that haven't been necessarily the best either in the last little while. Like you can see, they drafted this Todd Rupert guy, 5th overall just last season. Now, what the weird thing is, though, is actually if we go to like their goaltender, I think it was in Mateo Blackburn, you could see that they did make the Stanley Cup Finals just 2 years ago. So they basically went from being a Stanley Cup finalist to missing the playoffs, and now they're back in the playoffs again. So there is a chance that they could be actually a really good team based on that. So I'm hoping that obviously we could just contain like their top guys, but really they don't have that superstar type of player. Like their defensive core is kind of average. They do have a former defender in Mahalik there. They don't have necessarily the best offense either. Like the best offensive player is an 85 at the moment, which is kind of insane. So literally the best player on the team is the goaltender, which is something that I've never seen from any team before. Like even their depth options are pretty weak. And then Del Monte, one of their backup goalies, is currently injured. So I definitely think we should be able to beat them, but is it a team that maybe went a little bit too far that shouldn't made the playoffs, and are they going to cheese us because of that? I honestly don't know, but I really hope that our team could have a good run here, get to the second round, and then hopefully we build off a first round win. So anyways, before we get into this matchup against the Minnesota Wild, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about our season, and then we'll get into this first round matchup and see what this team is made of. So the first comment is from Garage TV, who says, "What a crazy good regular season. Love to see that. Top guys are going to be gone. Need to make sure that we have the next ones ready to step up. Loved how the bottom 6 stimulated. Stillman will learn face-offs in the offseason, and season focuses can help as well." And yeah, definitely we should do some offseason focus stuff when we get to another offseason and all that for Stillman. Because Stillman's face-off stats were absolutely atrocious. Like they were like 36% on the draw, but he doesn't have good face-offs despite being a center. Now, one thing we could do always is we don't have to necessarily use him as a center. We could always move him as a winger instead, because there is Kopitz, who is actually better at face-offs. We could always put him down the middle instead. There's probably some other guys that could take face-offs too. Like I think even Robertson could take face-offs if I remember right. Yeah, he can. So we could always just move Stillman to the wing instead if we really want to, and then that way we're a better face-off team. But we do still should train Stillman at face-off since he's just a center. Like he's not a right winger by any stretch. So That could be something we look into doing. But yeah, we definitely need to have the right guys drafted and stuff like that to take over once like guys like Staubitz retires and all that. But if Staubitz and Ristolainen both retire this offseason, Dunham and Cashman could easily be the top 2 guys playing next to Kolarz next year or something like that. So that's at least the plan I have if those guys retire. And then from a defensive standpoint, if Narain retires, we do at least have the young defenseman in the AHL in McLeod. So there's at least guys that can literally take over those spots, which is kind of nice to kind of have those in case, because obviously if we lose a lot of good players, that could hurt our chances in terms of making the playoffs and stuff like that. But it didn't really phase us last offseason, so who knows at this stage. Next comment is from Sound Taku, who says, Staubitz reminds me of Victor Hedman, a player who had a quiet start to his career but got better as he aged. Hard to believe Noreno was still top 10 in defensive points despite his age and rating. Looks like Risto also lost all of his X factors, which means he could very well retire at the end of the season. And yeah, one thing I didn't realize is Ristolainen lost all his X factors. I looked at the recording afterwards, and you are right, though. He did lose all his X factors, which is kind of insane because I think at the start of the season he had all 5 of his X factors, but now everything is completely gone. So is this the last year for Ristolainen? I think there's a good chance that he could retire at 35, which is kind of weird because usually guys retire at 36 in this game. You do see some 35-year-olds, but it's not usually a lot of them. So if these guys don't retire, they do have extensions already in place that I'm hoping that they will accept in this episode. So that way, if we do not lose them, we do have them at least signed next season, which means guys like Cashman and other people might leave the team. But these guys have to retire with this club. There's no question about it. I'd rather miss the playoffs than basically had these guys go to free agency. And yeah, Noreno was pretty solid, actually. Like, I wasn't expecting him to necessarily do as good as he was, because obviously he's only an 81 overall at the stage, but 54 points is almost a career best for him. Plus 21, like, he didn't slow down anywhere, which is awesome. I think he could still end up being a retirement this episode if we get eliminated, or next episode if we get eliminated, but I think obviously he just went off on a really good note, though, at least to end the season. So hopefully we could go far and win another Stanley Cup for him. But he's never won a Norris Trophy, but he's been probably one of the best defensemen or most consistent defensemen we've had in quite some time. And the last and final comment is from Michael Dose, who says, are we only looking at 6 to 7 more seasons left here? If so, do you have any thoughts on players in the minors that you think that can make it to the big club and contribute? And then what's the plan after this and the Islanders series is done? Please tell me there's more hockey coming from you, because I'll go through withdrawal without these shows. And yeah, there's definitely plans for more stuff after this series ends. So basically, my plans with this, before we get into the players and stuff like that, my plans with this is after this series ends, we are going to likely go into a 2010 throwback franchise mode, because my 2010 roster build should be done by then. So likely that's going to be replacing this. Normally, to replace the Islanders, I would probably just run the Islanders almost right till the end of their franchise mode, potentially. I mean, I could do another team this year to replace the Islanders at some stage, but I feel like I kind of want to run that all the way till the end of it. So there's a chance that that happens. There's also a chance that at some stage maybe I do some MLB to show stuff again, but at the same time it's not on Game Pass this year, which is kind of not great for me. So I don't know if I'll necessarily be playing MLB the show right out of the gate this year. But that is definitely an opportunity maybe to do some more videos on that, because that was fun last year. So that's at least my little plans for content going forward. We could always do more stuff also with my 2010 build. Like if we really wanted to, we could always just like, I don't know, do like some sort of like simulations with certain players, just do little trial runs with each team, almost something like that. Anything to kind of just fill up that content spot. So, but I do think we'll probably run my Islanders series for a good chunk still. But this series, once it comes to an end, it will get replaced with my throwback franchise mode. And what he was saying about the thoughts on the players that could still make it to the team before the series ends, there's a decent chunk of them, actually, I would say, that I think that can make it before the series ends. I'm not too sure about any of these 76s, maybe as like depth options, but I would say most of the forwards on this core, I don't know if they'll make it. Depends if they get good enough growth before the series ends. From a defensive standpoint, I could see Sagan making it maybe, but he is already listed as a top 6D, so maybe he's more used as a depth option. I could see Ryder McLeod for sure being on our blue line next season, once Narena retires at least. And then Carlotti could end up being on the NHL team, I think, relatively soon too. So I think these three guys definitely could be on the defensive core at some point. From a goaltending perspective, Mathers, obviously, I don't know if he'll ever be back in the NHL, but hopefully he does at some point. Maybe he doesn't. It really depends, obviously, because we are going to potentially be losing either Giunta or Malkin down the road. So Mathers maybe gets another chance, but I definitely think there's not a lot of guys left here, at least in the AHL, that would make it. But if we go to like our unsigned prospects, there is probably some unsigned prospects that could end up making it as well before the series ends, I think. Yeah, like Newberry, for instance, he could probably make it as a fourth line option at some point. He's already a 76 at 20, which is pretty damn impressive. And then I could also see Cogliano probably making it, considering he's got medium elite potential. He's a 72 at 21, so not the highest overall for a 21-year-old, but I could definitely see this guy making it into a bottom six role. The funny thing is he's another grinder, so we literally have like so many grinders on this team that I don't know necessarily if they're all going to play in that bottom six, but I definitely could see these two making it, and then all those AHL guys I was mentioning. These goaltenders probably not making it. I mean, they probably are like at least like 4 to 5 years out, and if we have 7 years left, there's a chance they could make it maybe. But I think it's going to be pretty close to the end when they actually do make it. So not really a ton of prospects to make it unless we draft some more NHL ready ones, but hopefully we don't have to worry about the draft too much going forward. Hopefully we just need to continue maintaining this roster pretty much right till the end. Okay, so now that that is done, let's get into this first round matchup and see if we could build off a great regular season. I really hope we can, because like I said, I don't really want to lose Stowitz and all those guys to retirement yet in this episode. Like, I'm not prepared mentally to lose those three guys potentially on our roster. Like, if they all three of them retired the same season, that's going to be probably one of the biggest blows we've ever had in terms of retirements. But let's get to game number one. We do have home ice advantage, of course, for the entire playoffs, because we did win the President's Trophy. So let's see if we could build off a good regular season. It was a little bit of a bad stretch near the end of the season, so I feel like we could have a good playoff run, because obviously we weren't losing a lot of games during the regular season, and then we end up losing like 5 of our last 7 games. So there is a chance that we could end up doing really well in the playoffs too. So let's see if we could build off at least the early stages of the season in this postseason. Hopefully we don't get cheesed. First period, game number 1. 1-0 us. Good start defensively, good start offensively. Hundwick opens the score with 2 minutes left in the period. Shots are 12-6, so we doubled them up on shots, and of course on goals. Actually, not even goals, I guess, because even if you double 0, it's still 0. So we're up 1-0 after the first period. Can we find a way to get some insurance to make the third period an easier time for us? Second period, 2-1. Okay, so the Minnesota Wild did tie it up, and it was our former defenseman of all people. That's kind of funny, because I was not really expecting it to be him of all people, but he scores on the power play. Marek Mahalik, that is. Ristolainen then gives us back to lead, so good to see Risto scoring despite losing his Vex factors. He's still playing relatively good. Obviously, though, this could be the end of his career, which is kind of scary. Shots are 20-15 in favor of us. We're only up by a goal, but it's been a pretty even game, I'd say, so far up to this point. Let's see if we could get some insurance and make it a little bit more breathable of a game. Come on, boys. Penalty kill to start the third. Not a good time to take a penalty. We do kill it off, though. Power play for us. They get a goal right after our power play. Rajah Law ties it up. We did have a 2-0 lead, but now it's 2-2. That's not great. Penalty kill. Can we kill it off, please, boys? Nicely done. That was a 5-on-3 at one point, so that's a great penalty kill there. Final few seconds, and we are in fact going to overtime in game 1. We are now being outshot 32-26, so Minnesota's starting to kind of heat up a bit. They got off to a slow start, but they've been definitely driving the offense in terms of shots on goal lately. Now, we're lucky that it's tied at least at this stage too, because Gianta's been pretty good up to this point. Can we find an OT hero in this game? Let's just call on Stowitz, because Stowitz had so much points during the regular season that I think he could literally show up at any stage. So let's see what happens. Overtime underway here in game 1. Can we find that winner? Yes, we can. And the guy is going to be Dunham. Okay. So the successor probably to Stowitz on that top line right wing scores the OT winner, and we have taken a 1-0 series lead despite being outshot 33-28. So not a bad first game. Does suck, obviously, that we were up 2-0 and then they got back into the game, but we do get that win, which is the most important part. So Hundwick from Cashman, Ristolainen from Stowitz and Robertson, and the game winner is Dunham from Cashman and Delisle. Jeez, why did I say Dunman? Probably because of Cashman and Ham. Yeah, it's probably because of the man and the ham part. I don't even know. Let's take a look at those individual stats here. So 2 points for Cashman in that game. Everybody else had 1 point. We had a +3 from Bell, so our top defensive pairing was doing well. Stillman and Kopitz were the only minus guys, but they're fourth liners, so it's not a huge issue. I didn't even realize Robertson actually picked up an assist in his first career playoff game. I think I just saw, right? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good to see from the grinder. And a 939 from Giunta. If Giunta does what he did during the regular season, then we should be on cruise control pretty much from here on out. But he gets first star of the game, Cashman the second star, and Dunham the third star. But yeah, Giunta's a fantastic goaltender. And I kind of would prefer maybe to hold on to him over Malkin once the contracts end for both of them. So we'll see what we end up doing when we get to that stage. And look at this. Stelwitz has already accepted the extension. So if he does not retire, Stelwitz is on board to basically end off his career here potentially. He says, I accept despite preferring a smaller market. So I guess we turned into a big market team or something like that. I'm not too sure, but he actually prefers a smaller market, but he does accept because of money. And look at that. Risto has accepted the contract enthusiastically. You met my contract duration expectations well. So both the boys are on board to sign here for another 2 years. Will they both retire at the end of the season, or will we be holding on to them? There's a good chance we could lose some pretty big players because of those signings. But like I said, I would prefer to miss the playoffs than to lose those guys to free agency. So really good to see them back on board again. Those guys have been excellent and definitely two of the best players I've probably ever had. All right. Well, we got to keep the team the same for game one since we did not lose. So let's see if we could take both of our home games. And then we'll obviously head to Minnesota, hopefully with a 2-0 series lead at that point. So here we go. First period, game number 2. And it's 1-1. Okay, I'll take it. We do score first, and it's the OT hero from last game. So Dunham with back-to-back goals, basically. Made it 1-0, but Gavin McKenna gets the Minnesota Wild on the board. He's technically their best forward is like an 85, which is pretty funny. So they definitely don't have that super stud 90-plus overall player like we do, or did at one point. Shots are 9-8 in favor of us. It's a 1-1 game. So this has been a pretty even series for the most part. Hopefully we don't allow them to win a game by 1 goal and stuff like that either. So hopefully we find our offense that we had during the regular season, because it's not been as good, obviously, as the regular season, but we just need to find a way to win games. We don't necessarily need to play the best offensively. We could literally suffocate teams defensively, too, like we did during the regular season. Let's see what happens in the second period, see if we could get that lead back. Second period, 2-2. Okay, this is maybe another game that could go to overtime based on how it's going out so far. Less than a minute in, Doi gives us the lead 2-1. Turnbull literally ties it up exactly 4 minutes later. Shots are 21-18 in favor of us, but it's a 2-2 game. Let's see what happens in this third period, see if we can get that lead, or is it going to go to another overtime situation potentially? Come on, boys. We've gotten a lead 2 times in this game so far, and we get our third lead, and it's Narena of all people. Is that the last NHL goal for Narena, potentially? Who knows? But that's a big one to give us that lead back here in this third period. Final 5 minutes. Can we lock this one down? Yes, we can. Ristolainen, another old man, gets the empty netter. We win 4-2, and just like that, we're up 2-0 in the series. We take both of our home games, so that's a good way to start off this round. Hopefully we could also find ways to win on the road, but we win by a score of 4-2. And it's another solid game. Like I said, good defensively, good goaltending. Our offense is solid. Like 7 goals in 2 games is pretty decent. Like you don't necessarily need to be scoring 5+ goals a game. Like you just need to have at least average numbers, and you could win games as long as you can play good defensively. So Dunham from Bell and Malak. We had Doig from Ristolainen and Kolars, Narena from Kolars and Stillman, and Ristolainen from Stelwitz and Kolars. So Stelwitz is off to a little bit of a slow start to this round. He's only got the 1 point, but Kolars with 3 assists in that game, Ristolainen with 2 points. So the old guys still continue to do really well on this team, which is nice to see. From a goaltending perspective, yeah, there's another great game from Giunta, 929. Giunta literally is probably one of my favorite goalies I've ever drafted at this point. He gets third star of the game, Risto the second star, and Kolars the third star. So yeah, Giunta's probably up there as one of my favorite goalies I've ever drafted. Ulanov probably in my Carolina series way back. If you ever go back and watch that Carolina series, that guy was insane though. So that guy still might be my number 1 favorite goalie I've ever had. But Giunta's definitely one of the best I've had in recent memories. So anyways, we have a 2-0 series lead. We might as well keep the team the same because we didn't lose 2 in a row. So let's see what we could do on the road. See if we could build off some good home momentum. I don't know how we're going to do on the road, but let's see if we can win on the road as well. Because we were obviously one of the best. We were the best home team and best road team during the regular season as well. So just got to find a way to continue that in the postseason. First period, game number 3. 1-0 us. Solid start again, and it's Robertson's first career playoff goal, so it's really good to see Robertson scoring goals and stuff too, because as a grinder, I don't expect him to really pick up as much points as he's doing, but he's literally been pretty good during the regular season, and he's been good in the playoffs so far, so he's kind of a decent player to build around on that right-hand side. Like, once Staubitz retires, having Dunham as the top-line right winger, maybe Robertson grows into a second-line guy at some point. I think that's pretty good. Shots are 13-10 in favor of us. It's only a 1-0 lead, so let's hope they can keep this lead intact going into the third period as well. Second period, 3-1 us. Good stuff, good stuff. Kondratyov tied it up for them, but Dunham and Staubitz score, so I did say Staubitz has been a little bit quiet so far. The 73-goal man scores his first goal of the playoff run. He's got 2 points now in back-to-back games. Shots are 20-20, but we're up by 2 goals. Let's see if we could lock this down in the third period and take it 3-0 stranglehold. Come on, boys. Hopefully this isn't one that we get cheesed and we get reverse swept, because or else I would absolutely lose my mind. But Delisle made it 4-1. He makes it 5-1 as well with a power play goal. So there's the offense that we haven't necessarily been getting so far in this round. But we are getting progressively better offensively, and we're still playing great defensively and in net. So everything's looking good so far in this first round for this team, as we're going to take Game 3 5-1 in Minnesota, and we have now taken a 3-0 series lead, and we're 1 win away from the second round. Let's go. Pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. So Robertson from Hunwick and Kopitz. We had Dunham from Cashman and Hunwick. Staubitz from Ristolainen. Delisle from Cashman and Dunham, and Delisle from Dunham and Cashman. So seems like that second power play unit scored a couple goals, which is great to see. Let's go to our stats here. So 3 points for Cashman, also for Dunham. Hunwick had 2 points. Delisle had 2 goals. A couple guys on 1 point. But it looks like a lot of lines are doing some good stuff, which is nice to see. Tulipov was somehow minus in that game, and I don't really know why, but I'm not going to complain. And Giannis had 3 straight really good games. Now, we could be just playing great defensively in front of him, too. But, yeah, Giannis has been the man. So, Cashman, the 3rd star. Delisle, 2nd star. And Dunham, the 1st star. Dunham's been very good offensively. Like, I think he has points in every game so far. So, he definitely is showing that he's ready to take that spot from Staubitz if Staubitz decides to retire at the end of the season. Which, like I said, we gave him a contract extension so that if he doesn't retire, he will be back again with the club next season. Okay, so we're up 3-0. Let's keep the team the same. Obviously, we've not been playing that bad so far. We've been playing great defensively. Our offense is starting to improve every single game. There's no problems really with this team right now. So can we pull off the sweep on Minnesota, or are we going to somehow find a way to get reverse swept? Because I feel like we could get reverse swept here because we've been playing so good so far, but I'm really hoping that's not the case. All right, so game number 4 in Minnesota. Can we win back-to-back games on the road to close out the Wild? And sorry if my voice sounds terrible right now. I don't know why it's like this. First period, game number 4. 2-0 us. Another good start offensively. Delisle continues his hot hand because he had 2 goals in the last game. Staubitz scores another, so Staubitz is now up to points in 3 straight games. Every single line seems to be contributing on this team right now, which is great to see. Shots are 14-12 in favor of us. We're up by a pair of goals and a pair of shots. Can we keep this lead intact for the third as well? Second period, 5-2 us. Let's go. We made it 4-0 at one point, though. Kolars and Ristolainen, Nurmi, and Rajal Law score for them. So at that point, it was 4-2, but Dunham with a big goal to restore that 3-goal advantage. Shots are 29-24 in favor of us. Can we find a way to lock this one down in the third period and sweep the Minnesota Wild? Like I said, our offense has been getting better as the series has gone on, so let's see what happens in this third period. 6-2, Delisle scores again. Goddamn, Delisle's doing really well. Delisle scores again. He's got 5 goals in the last 2 games. That's absolutely insane. And then Rupert makes it 7-3. This is our worst defensive game so far, but also our best offensive game. So, kind of makes sense. Maybe we're just going a bit too offensively minded. I'm not too sure. But Giannis still having a strong game, and that will end up being the final. We are going to pull off the sweep, and we avoid the cheese as we beat Minnesota in 4 games. Pure domination pretty much in this round, I would say, for the most part. This last game was a little bit crazy. The first game was close, but I think it was a pure dominant series for our team. So Delisle from Cashman and Dunham. We had Staubitz from Kohlers and Ristolainen. Kohlers from Staubitz and Ristolainen. Ristolainen from Kohlers and Staubitz. Oh my goodness, I felt like I just said that like 4 times in a row. Dunham from Cashman and Malak. We had Delisle from Dunham, and then we had Delisle from Dunham and Tulipov. So I think in general it's our top 6 with most of our offense so far, like our first line. And then also that Dunham Delisle line has been fantastic too. Because you have like literally one guy on 4 points, you have 4 guys on 3 points, 1 on 2 points, and a couple 1-pointers. But that is a very nice game. And then from our goaltending perspective, like I said, it was Jonta's worst game of the series, but he was still relatively good in that one, over 900 save percentage at least. And the 3 stars, Delisle the first star, 3 goals, Dunham the second star, 4 points, and Risto the third star with 3 points as well. So yeah, I think it was definitely our top 6 that did most of the work in that round, but that's okay. We did get some offense from other lines, and hopefully we can continue this momentum going into the next round. But first and foremost, let's take a look at our stats after the first round of the playoffs, and we'll see who we're facing up against in round number 2. But wow, Dunham's off to a really good start here. Let's just actually go by forwards, not by each position. So Dunham's on 9 points in 4 games. He's a goal and assist per game, which is pretty awesome, plus 8 too. Risto's on 7 points. Cashman's on 7 points. So those guys have been fantastic as well. You have Delisle, Staubitz, Kolar's on over a point per game as well. And then the bottom 6 is all under point per game. 2 points for Robertson and Malak. Doig's on a goal. Stillman's on a point. Same with Kopitz. And Comrie has no points so far as the third line center. So it's been definitely mainly the top 6. But if we could get that bottom 6 continuing to do a little bit of chip-ins, it's going to help out a lot. From a defensive standpoint, we have Hunwick on 3 points and a plus 6, Narain on a goal, Bell on an assist, and same with Tulipov. And then Hutton had no points, but it was plus 5. Petterman had no points in 4 games. Still pretty good defensively. From a goaltending perspective, Gionta had a .932 save percentage and a 1.99 goals against average through 4 games, so he's been absolutely great so far. Obviously, that last game was his worst game, but I think he's continuing on that really good season that he's had, which obviously he won the Vezina likely this year. He's also won the Jennings. Last year he did the same thing. And it looks like he wants to be another Stanley Cup champion again this year if he continues like that. So shout out to our team. Very good first round. The best goal scorer in that round was Delisle, and all 5 of those goals came in those last 2 games, which is pretty insane. But from a point perspective, it's been Dunham and that second line doing a lot of good legwork. Because the stop line has basically kind of kept the offense to a minimum a bit, because 7 points for Risto and 6 for Staubitz and Kolar's. But the top line's been better, or the second line's been better than the top line. But that's okay. We don't need necessarily the top line to do as much work as the second line or whatever. So the question is now, who are we going to be playing in round number 2? And is it a team we could beat, or is it a team that might be like a cheese team that could find a way to beat us, since we did win the President's Trophy after all? Hopefully not a cheese team. The answer will be, we'll find out in a few days. I guess there's a lot of Game 7s potentially happening. Let's see. We should be getting close to it. Oh, here we go. It's going to be the Winnipeg Jets. Okay, so we do have to run into Winnipeg again. We've ran into Winnipeg a couple times, I feel like, the last few years, if I'm not mistaken. Because we did obviously have to play against Cavallo and stuff like that. We took on them last year in the first round. And I think we played them recently other than that. Maybe not. Maybe last year was the first time we ever played against them. I'm not too sure, but we definitely did play them. They had a 49-29-4 record, so they had a really good season as well. So this is going to be probably a tougher matchup. I believe their defenseman, Bissonnette, is going to win another Norris, so he's been really good as of late as well, which is not great. So let's take a look at our stats from the regular season compared to us, and then we'll also take a look at their playoff stats compared to us, and then we'll take a look at their roster. But I'm assuming it's probably pretty close to last year. But we had 17 more points than the Winnipeg Jets, so we definitely were way better than they were. But obviously, they're still a really good team. We can't say anything less than that. Goals for per game, they are actually pretty good. 3.71 goals for per game. We are 3.9. Goals against per game, they are 3.04. So they did allow a little bit more goals than expected, but they definitely had the offensive skill. Power play percentage, 19.8%. And then penalty kill, 86.1. So they actually had a pretty decent penalty kill, and not as great of a power play despite being more of an offensive team. That's interesting. 10 shorthanded goals, which is definitely up there as one of the most in the league. 23, 16, and 1, or not 1 and 2 on home ice. And the exact same thing on the road almost, but 26-13-2, so it's a little bit reversed. And then 6-4-0 in the last 10 games, okay? The question I have first before I take a look at what they've done during the playoffs is how did we play against them during the regular season? Like, did we have a good record against them or whatnot? Oh, we lost the last game, it looks like, but let's see. How did we do against the Jets in the season? We lost 5-2 in regulation, so that's a pretty tough loss. What else did we have? 6-3 loss. Damn, they might have actually had our number this season. So there's 2 losses in regulation. And I think we only played them the 3 times. We lost in a shootout as well. So we literally played pretty bad against them this season for the most part. So they might be able to find a way to exploit us, which is a little bit concerning. Regular season almost doesn't matter when you get into the playoffs, though. But we had such a great season, though, that they managed to beat us 3 times and hand us basically 2 of our regulation losses, which is only 10% of our regulation losses. And then they also handed us 1 of our overtime losses as well. So they definitely know how to exploit us a little bit. In terms of the playoff stats so far, though, let's see what they've been doing good at and what they haven't been. So they won their series in 6 games. They were scoring 3 goals for per game. We were scoring 4.75. They are allowing 2.33, so they're getting some good goaltending. We allowed 2 goals against. Their power play percentage was 16.7. Ours was 11.1, so our power play might need to improve a little bit. And then penalty kill percentage, 88.9 for them, 92.9 for us. They already have a shorthanded goal in the postseason. 3-0 on home ice, 1-2 on the road. All right, so let's see what they're looking like at this point in time. Like I said, I assume they're pretty similar to what they looked like last year, but I don't really remember their full-on roster from last season other than Bissonnette and Cavallo. Oh, yeah, okay, now I remember them. Yeah, Matthias Ragnarsson, Alvin Lindsay, and Christian Danielson. Yeah, these guys were all there last year. That's a very good top line. Second line has Chance Wanvig, Jukka Leitinen, and Curtis Beck. Third line, Daniel Cantor. That guy might be new because I don't think I recognize him. Brennan Wheeler and Len Leahy. And a fourth line, Matteo Fritzmeier, Lars Lindback, and Dan Christensen. So they have a great top line. Center depth is pretty good. Obviously, Lindback maybe should be higher than Wheeler. Winger depth is pretty solid, but I think Wanvig's more of a third line guy than a top 6 guy, but it looks like he simulates good. So in general, that forward group is good. It's good. Defensively, Bissonnette is a 93 overall, is probably one of the best defensemen in the league, so gotta watch out for him. 95 points this season. God damn. A couple of years ago, he missed 20 games during the season, but still had 48 points. Yeah, this guy's pretty damn good, and he's only played in the playoffs 2 times in his career over the last 2 years, so the Jets have only just started to make the postseason, and he's got 13 points in 13 career playoff games, so yeah, this guy's definitely one to watch out for sure. So it's him and Raimo Pakarainen. I don't feel like they had this guy last year. No, they did. Okay. I don't remember who they actually had, to be honest. Jameson Blacker, I do remember that guy. Connor Sutton, Akeem Thalberger, and Ernest Brewer. Yeah. That defensive core is a little bit weak other than Bissonnette, but I would assume Bissonnette's making a lot of money. Yeah, $10 million for the next 2 years. That's actually not that bad, but he's going to definitely get paid a ton of money when that contract ends. But yeah, that defensive core, I'd say that obviously it has a stud defenseman, but aside from that, it's nothing crazy. They might have an injury, though. And then from a goaltending perspective, Marshall Cavallo was an 84 overall. Has been a pretty solid goaltender, I think, in the playoffs. Regular season, not the best goalie, an 898 career save percentage, but playoffs, a 917 career save percentage. I mean, he's only played 2 years in the playoffs, but had a really good AHL playoffs apparently a few years ago, too. All right. And then our backup is Brett Brashear. From a scratch perspective, Zane Anderson, Carl Hall, and Lucas Jenner. High 9. Yeah, it's a pretty solid team. Like, at least I'd say they're better offensively than they are defensively, which kind of coincides with their offensive stats and defensive stats from regular season. But Bissonnette could definitely be a difference maker, so we got to contain him. We got to contain this top line. So, like, their power play unit, Lindsay, Danielson, Leitinen, Bissonnette, and Ragnarsson, we got to contain that. That looks filthy. That's a really nice power play unit. So if we could play good on the penalty kill, I think we definitely have a chance to beat them, but it's definitely going to be a tough series regardless. Who else is left in this playoff run so far? Edmonton and Seattle. Toronto, Washington, Philadelphia, and Florida. I feel like Seattle and Edmonton played each other last year in the conference finals, almost their second round or some shit like that. So I feel like it's like almost the same Final Four as last year, but I don't remember. Yeah, interesting. Maybe not the case. Maybe that's just from like my Islanders series that those guys face each other a lot. But I definitely have seen the Kraken play the Oilers before in the postseason, I think. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory Franchise Mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the second round of the playoffs against the Winnipeg Jets as we look to get to the conference finals, build off a nice sweep. Hopefully we don't get swept in this second round, but obviously, being a President's Trophy winning team, I'm always skeptical our team's not going to do good, but who knows, maybe this is one of those years that we could win both the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup in the same time. So think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.